Hey guys, it's Raymond. You're watching RPAD TV, and I am in a post apocalyptic mood, even though it's sunny and bright out. But yeah, it just seems dreary and hopeless because I've been watching Fallout along with my guests today, Mac from Turtle Beach and Carlos from Revisiting the Mania. We're going to dissect, discuss, and review Fallout Season 1 on Amazon Prime. But before we get to that, I want to see how these guys are. Mac, what's going on, man?
Nothing. Just crazy busy getting new products ready to launch in a month. So just all of that stuff. Plus, my friends at PDP were kind enough to get me a Riffmaster guitar for Fortnite Festival. So that will probably be happening tonight.
Very cool. And you can start a whole band at your household. You got the drum kit.
I don't. Well, no, I have my own. Yeah, my own drum kit. I don't think that works with an Xbox though.
I know. Just works for making noise. That's all that matters. And
but
Carlos,
my 14-year-old's excited about it.
Sweet. Carlos, how are you today?
Doing good. Still trying to recover. You know, you go to WrestleMania for like the first time, and then you go to a WrestleCon, which is like a comic convention only with wrestlers.
That's right.
So it was just a lot of things to do in a short amount of time.
And WrestleMania day one was cold, and you were outside.
So. Yes.
Where
was that?
Philadelphia.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Did you have jackets and stuff?
Yeah, we're from Chicago, so we prepped, and the only thing that we brought with us because we didn't want to pay $70 or $80 was a blanket.
Right.
So we brought a blanket in with us.
I know why you really bought the blanket.
PG, sir.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not your show. It's my show. It's like your ratings do not come to my show. Yeah.
But
so, guys, I wanted to talk to you about Fallout. It wasn't really on my radar, this series. You know, it's a massive video game series that I respected. I loved some of the early games, but the show I wasn't tracking at all. Then all of a sudden, a lot of my friends who have opinions that I respect were raving about it. So I was like, okay, got to watch it. And I'm happy I did. So let us kick things off as we usually do with a thread size review. How would you sum out Fallout Season 1 really quickly, Mac?
I think for me, and I have a pretty good rooted history with Fallout as a fan, and so I think it delivered everything that I wanted to see in that series. And I also had very low hopes and expectations going into it, just because most of the time, mostly all the games related movies and shows and all that stuff, they never quite hit as close to home as you want them to.
Yeah,
there are a few, but that do. But you kind of always have to temper your expectations. And this one just kind of it was just from the moment it starts, if you get into that world, it just kind of goes in all the directions that you want it to go.
And you, Carlos, give me your thread size review of Fallout 1.
I think it was a pretty good show. It does a great job, and not only catering, or I guess not alienating the hardcore people that have played
right
us and my wife. I showed her a couple of episodes because she's not very much into apocalyptic type of things, because especially ones that she feels that can actually happen. So to the point that where she actually wanted to keep watching and binging these shows. So
mine did too.
Very cool.
I think that's a kudos to them for being able to I feel bring two different types of fans together to watch and binge watch the show.
I actually want to expand on that exact point a little later on with both of you.
Okay.
Because unlike me, I watch the show by myself because I like to do my own thing and focus. But you guys have families and stuff, so that's an interesting perspective. Now, my thread size review is Fallout Season 1 is one of the best video game TV adaptations ever with some really impressive world building.
Yep.
So let us kick things off. I want to know more about your background with the Fallout games, and what were your expectations going into the show? Mac, I want to go to you last because I think you have the most interesting background here. Carlos, kick this off.
I had only like seen this game when I first seen it being played was I think Fallout 2. This is when I was in the service, like in the early, like late 90s, early 2000s. So I wasn't like, it was different, like a different looking RPG than whatever we've been accustomed to, like growing up, especially you, Raymond. And I'm not sure about Mac, but like being used to being just like in the dungeons or like in fantasy worlds and things like that. And here we have something that's completely different. So I wasn't really like intrigued by it, but I was, as soon as like the graphics started getting better, my first actually me playing the game was Fallout 3. And you know, by then I've gotten used to doing a lot of like first person shooters and things like that. So that was very accommodating and like an easy transition. And I played Fallout New Vegas, and that one kind of turned me off a little bit on it.
I'm literally just finishing that one right now.
But and then I just started like not wanting to get into it because there was other RPGs and other games that started coming out, and it just fell by the wayside. But I am familiar with it, but that's about as far as anything goes. Anything past New Vegas, I just didn't really pick up if there was that many like obvious ones in this show.
Was the TV show on your radar at all going into 2024?
No, because I wasn't even aware like how far along it was. Like I had heard that they had signed down Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
And that was like the only like headline I had ever seen about this show, and that besides it being on Amazon Prime. So I was like, well, he is a good actor. So I just wasn't sure like where they would cast him because we didn't know at the time who he was going to be playing. So
and he's versatile.
Very versatile.
Yeah.
So my background with the games, I go back to the Interplay days, and I liked that Fallout was interesting and very different, as you were saying, Carlos, from most of the RPGs that are around at that time. When Bethesda took it over, they really took things to a new level. But I guess I'm similar in that there were just other games that I wanted to play. I played the main ones because you kind of had to know if you were any remotely part of this industry. It was so important of a franchise that you had to play it, even if it wasn't your thing.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm not a post-apocalyptic guy. I like swords and sorcery settings much more than any kind of sci-fi or post-apocalyptic stuff. But Bethesda's just so good at what they do. So you needed to play this. And the show wasn't on my radar really at all. I knew it was coming out in 2024. I didn't really care one way or another, but then all of a sudden, everyone after the first night when all the episodes hit, people were like, "Whoa, this is fantastic! This is one of the best things I've seen." And I'm like, "Okay, I know at least some of these guys are definitely not exaggerating." So I immediately made a point to watch it. Which brings us to you, Mac. You used to work at Interplay, if I remember correctly. Was that your first job in the business?
That was my first official job in the games industry, was working at Interplay Entertainment. And it happened to be around the same time as some of the Fallout stuff was still there. Nice. And Black Isle Studios was one of the development studios underneath Interplay. And so, there was, like I said, I didn't get to work directly on it, but there was plenty of, posters in the hallways, people who did work on it. And I did actually get to work with people who were very close to Fallout, like Leonard Boyarsky. He was one of like the original guys. And I worked with him later on in life on a different Interplay game, the Vampire series. So, but I've also I've been a fan of those games too, like just being a kind of hardcore gamer my whole life. Fallout was, like you said, like if you were in the industry, if you played games at any kind of capacity at that era, you'd certainly heard of Fallout, if not played it. And whether or not it was your cup of tea or not, I still think like it was something that most people picked up at one point in time, or at least at the very least saw an ad. And but I've played everything from I think I've played all of them, to be honest, except for like the really like like tactics and things,
right.
Some of those.
Not your cup of tea, those RTS style.
No, not as much. No, I do like, and again, I think like the games, it did well. Like I think those games were fun for me to play. And I think it was interesting, like Carlos said, like you say, it's like, I like the dungeon crawlers and this and that. I always liked it because it was similar but different, right? It was enough of a similar kind of style game to play, but just like in a different, a different skin, different setting. And that was always fun for me, just as a gamer, to kind of do something else in a different world.
And if I remember correctly, Christopher Taylor, not Chris Taylor, the funny haha one, but Christopher Taylor worked on Fallout. I don't know if he worked on Fallout 2, but he did a lot of stuff with Interplay back in the day.
Yeah, I don't. It's so long ago. We're all dating ourselves very badly, by the way.
We really are. Let's change records here and talk about some of the actors. Carlos mentioned Walton Goggins before. Ella Purnell plays Lucy, who is the lead, and we also have Maximus, played by an actor that I've never heard of before.
Me neither.
Aaron Moten. But yeah, let's kick things off with what you thought about the performances, starting with Lucy. Mac, your turn.
I thought she did great. And again, I didn't know what to expect. And I don't think I'd ever seen her in anything prior to this. But when I was looking around earlier, she was one of the voices for one of the characters in Arcane. And then you kind of go, oh, okay. So now you go. And so for her, and I just saw a story about this earlier today too, where it's just like, she's got two kind of game related, movie / TV show things under her belt. So good for her. But I thought she did great as the kind of player character, if you want to call it that, right? Like I thought and just everything from how the vault works and the lifestyle in the vault to just like her reaction to everything above and on the surface. I just thought she played those parts so well in kind of just a shocked but not shocked kind of way. Everything was like, holy crap, but like this is probably not going to be the worst of it, so let's just keep going. And she was just a trooper and kept going.
Right. How about you, Carlos? What did you make of her performance?
I thought the performance was great. As far as like, I have never seen her in anything like major. Like Mike mentioned, he pulled up her credits and it was only like voice over things that she got to do. So that's a little bit something that I like. I watch like a lot of like animation, and I sometimes don't even pay attention to who does the voice in some of the video games. But if I hear it enough, I'll probably pick it up. But when I first saw her, I thought, first of all, the name is watching like movies, Lucy McLean, that just led me to lead it into
Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah, the Live Free or Die Hard movie where they introduce Mary Elizabeth Winstead as John McClane's daughter, and she looks very similar, Ella Purnell, to Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which also starred in a movie,
Yellow Jackets.
Right.
Well, besides that one, but she starred in 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is another movie that takes place like in a bunker in a vault.
I didn't remember that.
Maybe that's her niche, like bunker acting.
Well, I think that they just wanted Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and they're like, well, we can't get her. She's gonna be too much money.
Hello to you, Nate, and thanks for bringing that up. Yellow Jackets, excellent series. There is one thing I know for sure you've seen her in, Carlos. She had a very small role in Kick-Ass 2. So
was she Kick-Ass's girlfriend in it?
No, she was one of the bullies at school. That
I gotta go back.
Long that I've watched that one. That one was not as good as the first one, so
no,
I didn't rewatch it as much. But yeah, probably would have. If I see it, I would probably be like, "Yes, you're correct, sir."
Yeah, I liked her performance a lot. As Mac was saying, she did the fish out of water thing really well, but Unlike most people that play that role, she wasn't like completely helpless, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
So if need be, she would cross the line, or her signature line of "okie dokie," like I'll chop off his head, okie dokie. I love how she was just
here we are.
There were a few things. It took me 2 episodes to get used to her, and this is not detracting from her performance at all. Like she's British, but her English accent, it was almost, is this girl doing an Emma Stone impersonation?
I would never even know. If you didn't say so, I would never even know.
And I was distracted by her really unusually big eyes.
Yeah.
Which was like an Amanda Seyfried problem for me usually. So yeah, I mean, if you have her giant eyes here, I was 5 seconds away from thinking, is this chick gonna like ask for the precious? Like, so,
come on.
I know. No, she is an objectively beautiful woman, but she's got these giant eyeballs and they're distracting.
I thought they kept you kind of focused on her.
Well, usually my eyes aren't that high when I'm just kidding. Now we have to talk about Walt Goggins, of course. This guy, he's done so much, but my first memory of him was going to see Major League 3 in a movie theater. And my friend and I, when the movie started, we were the only 2 people in the theater. It was like a rainy day in Manhattan.
I didn't even know there was a Major League 3. Or probably I've seen it and just didn't believe it was real.
It probably should have been direct to video. It was that. It didn't have most of the cast. I think Serrano and who was the Japanese player? What was his name again? I think those were the only 2. No, Rube Baker was in it. And Scott Bakula takes over as the main character, which is just
dear Lord.
Yeah, I was a fan enough of that series that my friend and I both were amped to see this movie in the theaters. Unfortunately, 10 minutes into it, 2 other people walked into the movie and we're like, hey, I bet these guys didn't pay. But Walt Goggins plays Cooper, who becomes not only a ghoul, he becomes the ghoul.
Yeah.
And I thought he killed it. I mean, you expect the biggest star to bring the star power, and he was charming and cool, but also felt dangerous. Carlos, what did you think of him?
Yeah, I think that he filled in that role as kind of being like a protagonist and an antagonist very well. I think that if Jonathan Nolan ever decides to do Westworld again and he can't get Ed Harris, he should be able to plug in Walton Goggins as the Man in Black and just be able to go right there. But it's very funny that like they made this character, the ghoul, to be like kind of westernish type of deal. Like it's kind of like something that was safe for him, for Nolan, and maybe just felt like comfortable in making someone like that. So yeah, but he's done great, and can't wait to see what we get more with him leading into season 2, because there's lots to pull back.
That's a great point about him, flipping between being the protagonist and antagonist at different points in the series. He's kind of like almost like an anti-hero that you would see in WWE these days. Mm-hmm. How about you, Mac? What did you think of Goggins?
I liked again, I'm the same boat. I think he did great, and I think the reason why I liked him and that he did great is part of the answer to like the next question, like what aspects of Fallout Season 1 did we like. So let's circle back up. We can circle back to that and talk about Maximus, I guess.
Yes, we got to talk about Maximus now.
The love child of Denzel Washington, Jonathan Majors.
Ooh, I was definitely getting, that's perfect. I was definitely getting, especially when he smiled, I was getting a Denzel vibe from him.
Definitely Denzel. You can see Denzel, right? But he's got like a Jonathan Majors, and that's not a great analogy at the moment.
But he has the physicality of John Majors, yes. not personally, but
yeah. But just again, I didn't know what to expect, and what I thought was an interesting aspect of the show was the whole brotherhood kind of involvement, and that's a whole other narrative that kind of carries us through and into potentially season 2. But I just thought his like Maximus, like that new kind of character, to me, like that's like the newest element of it all, was like somebody you don't kind of identify with in any real capacity.
Yeah.
Right. Until he's introduced to you in the show, right? Like even if you played Fallout or knew of it, like I'm pretty sure, like I think he's kind of like a new character, right?
Yes, as far as I know,
but he's not like a player character that you're familiar with. So I think like his story in general, of like a coming, you kind of knew what was going to happen. You knew he was going to end up in armor somehow, right? And then I love the way they did that, by the way. But I love Maximus's story. Like, I think it was kind of cool to see, and he stays kind of true to himself, and I think that's why I like him. I think he's just kind of like, he's gonna be a good guy and as good of a guy as you can be
in that world.
World.
Yeah, well, he surprised me out of all the leads, because he had layers that I was not expecting.
Yeah, he can play some emotion, right?
Yeah, like he's part of this. I mean, it's a cult. They're all. Which is funny because he's saying the Vault Dwellers are a cult, but he's essentially in a religious cult. He's not there for pure reasons. He's out for revenge. So he's driven and he wants to be a fighter. But when you see him living in the vaults, when you see the changes that he goes through with Lucy, and also some of the naivete, which I found interesting. Like, to me, it was obvious that Dane was in love with him, but he had no idea that was the case. At least that's how I interpreted it. Right. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but yeah, a lot of stuff seems to be because of how he was raised, and he grew up in a military cult. So much of personal interaction was just like whoosh. And I loved how it played off. I loved seeing how cushy he got when he was down there in the vaults. That was a cool transformation to watch him go through. What did you make of the character and actor, Carlos?
Well, just like Mac, I also did get that Denzel thing, but I actually thought that it was Denzel and Cuba Gooding Jr.
Oh wow, yeah, I could totally see that.
So, but that wasn't like, I had not known about this actor before.
Never heard of him.
It was interesting, especially like the character arc that happens, because he gets picked up by the Brotherhood. He gets his ass kicked like every day.
Right.
He's cleaning out tire toilets, I think, right? Or something. I don't know what he's doing there, but and then he gets passed over to be a squire, and then he meets Lucy, who's like kind of like hey, like bringing out the good in him, because he sees like all the qualities that she's open and honest, and just truth telling, and just wants everyone to love everybody, to steal a line from Jackie Moon and everything.
Hand and all.
So
ELE.
Yeah. So he's just, I think he's buying into whatever Lucy's selling, and there's obviously some attraction that he has to her, and he's trying to do good and trying to show her that he's a good man. So I like that he's kind of gone from that, but now he's kind of like, not to give any more things, but it's going to be interesting how that conflict is going to go with him still being at the Brotherhood.
Yeah, for sure. Now there are a lot of great supporting actors as well. Leslie Uggam is always fantastic to see her.
Yeah.
Chris Parnell was in a few episodes.
Cyclops dude.
Fred Armisen. So that's like a lot of SNL people. You mentioned Knight Titus before, Michael Rappaport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that cameo was so good.
I liked him a lot, but
that was fantastic.
I'm so used to his social media content. I'm like, why isn't he having like an angry rant about Trump while he's in his armor? Isn't that all he does?
Never would have happened if
the
asshole didn't get voted in.
Wow. Yeah, and he has like a 1 out of every 5 words is profanity.
He has like, he's one of those dudes he could like serve you up a master's class in that word. Right.
Oh
like,
my God.
Like, there's very few people who use it like with as much like magic as he does.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's impressive about him, it's not just the frequency, but the intent.
The emphasis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He picks it, he uses it at exactly the right time with exactly the right tone.
Makes cussing an art form.
He does. He does. Yeah, I usually subscribe to Coach Pop's view that cursing is an ignorant thing for when you can't find the real word you want to use, but not with Michael Rappaport.
No. They say if you curse a lot, that you're like more likely to be like brilliant and smart. Like that's all science points to that if you curse a lot, it's because you're smart. So just go with that.
I'm like, what happened to me? Like, trying to figure that out. Lucy's brother is played by Moises Arias, he was one of my favorite characters in The King of Staten Island.
I didn't watch that.
I was wondering where I saw him.
He's in a few things. It's just I'm also just fascinated by his height. He's like 5'3" or something, but he's
a little dude.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the cast all around. I mean, Walton Goggins is probably the biggest star, but the cast was just solid.
I think that also the guy who was the chicken fucker and the doctor, that guy was great.
The snake oil guy.
Snake oil guy, yeah. Oh, Hancho, the guy who digs up the ghoul.
Yeah,
that was by the way,
Bubba from Forrest Gump. Yeah. I thought he was going to be talking about like 50 different ways you can eat shrimp, but no.
Yeah. There was at least one other one that I was like, oh man, that was good. That'll come back to me in a little bit.
Yes, tangents are always welcome, as our comments are always welcome from you guys. We have another one here. My wife recognized the brother from Hannah Montana. I've never watched that.
I read that too, that he was in that as well.
Is that who you're thinking of, Mac? Michael Emerson?
No.
Yeah, the guy from Lost, the guy who ends up being in the Enclave.
Who's the guy who got his head cut off?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Is that him?
Yeah, that's the guy who was in Lost, Michael Emerson.
Is that the head?
Yeah, it's the head.
That was funny too. I did like that he was in there, and you're like, oh, it's the guy from Lost, but he was like dead in the second episode.
Now we're going to talk about things that we liked about the first season. Mac, you were hinting at something earlier.
Yeah, I think for me, and just as familiar as I am with like the world and all that stuff, what I found the most fascinating and good about the series is how much it played true to how you actually play the game, which is you try to stick to the main story, but you go on side missions everywhere, right? And you just end up getting distracted and go off and do, and then you eventually get back to the main story. And I just thought it did such a good job of like delivering that narrative through the 8 episodes of the show, right. and in enough where like you didn't feel like by the end of the series, like you didn't feel like they didn't answer the questions that you wanted to have answered before you move on to whatever happens in season 2. And I just thought that was a very well done, well paced, and it just played true to the kind of the nature of the game for me. And I thought that was really neat to see it actually like happen.
Very cool. How about you, Carlos? What stood out for you?
I think what I liked is that it wasn't like following like a formula from the game. Like when you first start out, you choose your character and then you do all these things, and then they just send you out to explore. And obviously, we had to go away from that. So the way they kind of like lull you in first with like the beginning, they kind of show you something familiar with the beginning with the Walton with his daughter, and then he's just doing a regular kid's birthday, and then all of a sudden the bombs drop, and then we skip forward 19 years later,
right?
And you just dropped in here like it. That part I liked because it kind of reminded you like maybe like the beginning cinematic of a game where they just show you like that, and then you just dropped into the game itself. And then so I like that in particular thing because it was kind of game-ish to me, but it wasn't too much. And the exposition that it had kind of made you feel kind of like invested in it because you're like, well, now I want to know what happened to those characters, what happened to the daughter, what happened to Coop,
what happened to who's the friend, by the way? That was the other character, the other brother of Steel guy who's now a mutant.
Oh yeah, right. Joe Pepperton. No, that guy.
That guy was like great.
Yeah, when I first saw him the first time, I was like, this guy's hilarious because I remember like the little cameos he did in that show Superstore that was on NBC, and where it's kind of like they are working at a Walmart, but it's Cloud9, that type of show. And then he was in that other show that they made on Fox where they had like a bootleg He-Man.
I don't know this show, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, they had like some
bootleg He-Man.
It was like son of something, I can't remember. So it was like a Space Ghost where it was a cartoon.
I know what you're talking about.
But he was a real life. The kid was a real life person, but his father was the cartoon version of red hair. I think he was a red hair wannabe He-Man. But that he was also hilarious in that. So
I've got to look that up. Somebody
I think it's Son of Zork or something. Son of something. It's Son of, but I don't remember the name.
Yeah. That sounds familiar now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
But I like that, and I just like the little hidden things that you would see if you have played the games. Like in the first episode, you get the stim packs. And then you see like the bobbleheads everywhere and like the Nuka-Cola.
The stim pack works just like it does in the game, by the way, too. It doesn't matter what you got hit with. Like you get hit with a fucking rocket in the stomach, and if you just give yourself stim pack, you'll be fine. Like,
yeah, right? You can get mauled by a irradiated bear, and you'll be able to survive if you had the stim pack.
We have that now. It's Robitussin, like Chris Rock said. Put more tussin on
it. Yeah, but so, I think it just just being able to get fans and non-fans, like I had mentioned earlier, like committed to and invested in the show, like right from the start, was pretty much what like impressed me from like the first few minutes.
Here's another piece too, by the way. My wife, who does not play video games, is not familiar with any of this stuff. She watched the whole show and was also similarly like hooked, good characters, good progress, right? Like, and her question to me was, "What's this based on?" And I was like, "What do you mean? It's a game. It's based on the game." And she's like, "Well, what's the game based on?" I was like, "The game's based on the game." This is,
yeah.
And like, but she's fascinated as an outsider looking in about the depth of like the world, the artwork, the storylines, the music. Like she was like the timeline of how it's this like kind of futuristic 50s setting kind of style.
Right.
But they have robots and tech that we didn't have at that point. Like she just kind of like this whole thing was like a world that she'd never even heard of, but like is big enough to be its own hit TV show now.
That's fantastic. And that ties into my point perfectly. My favorite aspect of the show was the world building, which, when you have a series, a TV series or a movie, you always look at the actors first, the writing second, or the directors second or third. And all those things definitely contributed to the show. But as Mac was saying, part of it was the music. And to me, a big part was the set design. I loved the sets in the vault. I loved the sets in the wasteland. It gave the world such a unique feel. Like, the uniforms, the armor, the crappy clothes, the wasteland people wore. Yeah, it was just absolutely. And it created a really deep and distinct world that it's very interesting that your wife, Mac, was into it, not knowing the franchise at all. But that it's a testament to the producers, directors, and everyone involved that those aspects worked so effectively. And this was an expensive series. It was, I believe, the budget was $152 million for 8 episodes. That's expensive television. It's not Rings of Power expensive, but it's still up there.
Still worth it though. # worth it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they definitely got the most out of their money, and by all accounts, this has been Amazon's best original series so far. But in terms of viewership, I don't really know what else Amazon has done aside from Invincible. So
yeah, Invincible also I like.
Lord of the
Boys.
Rings. Oh, the boys, yeah.
The Boys and Gen V.
Yeah. I mean, Lord of the Rings, that impressed the hell out of me, but it was
a great show, by the way.
Ridiculously expensive. Yeah, and you can tell. Like I felt like I was watching the most expensive TV series ever made, and it's pretty much true. I think it's some of their episodes and some Game of Thrones episodes are up there for budget, but yeah, like super impressive. But on a lower budget, but still very high, this was equally impressive. Nate brought up The Boys as well, but yeah, Amazon has done a lot of excellent nerd content that we should be happy with. Now let's talk about favorite scenes. Did you have them? I'll start this one. I like the whole sequence of when Maximus was living in the vault and seeing him, learning how naive he was, talking about sex, watching him enjoy popcorn and taste caviar and be like, what is this? I thought that was cool that, he's come from a world where he's had a pretty hard and bare bones life. All of a sudden he's safe and comfortable and watching, like he didn't know what a hot shower was, but maybe that was a bit too much, but I loved watching him. That was well written and well acted. I enjoyed that whole sequence. How about you, Carlos?
I think one of my favorite ones was when Coop sends in Lucy to be an organ donor involuntarily, and just seeing those two goofy guys are like, yeah, you're just sending the robot, the Matt Berry voice robot. Yeah, you just go ahead and take care of that for us. And they're just like being all lazy and everything like that. And then everything just all goes to shit because they never expected her to, being able to do her, John McClane.
Right. But that scene also had one of my favorite lines in the show where he's like, oh my God, I thought you were going to use me as a sex slave. And the robot's like, no, don't be ridiculous.
Yes. and Matt Berry's unmistakably perfect voice for that role.
Delivery was spot on.
That was one of my favorite ones. And then pretty much when Maximus does go, and then he's like when Lucy first offers him to have sex, and then he's like, what is that? And then we flash forward to everything. He's like, yeah, I'm ready for it now. And she's like, no, we got other things to do.
No, he says, do you want to make my cock explode? that line and delivery was excellent.
But he's totally dry when he says it too. He's just it just comes off very perfectly.
Yeah. And I guess that goes back to the naivete of that character that I was not expecting. Mac, let's hear about some of your favorite moments and scenes.
I got two. One of them, I think, a lot of agreement with, which is when the ghoul ends up fighting. I forget who's in the Brotherhood of Steel Armor at that point. Is it Maximus or is it the
Maximus?
Yeah. But when they fight, when they just kind of have a fight in that kind of courtyard.
Yeah. That's in Philly, right?
Yeah.
What's cool about that to me was it actually just shows just how fucking tough to kill a ghoul is, right? If it's going up against a guy who's in power armor and he's doing just fine, right? That it just set a really good kind of example of oh damn, he's tough, right? And then my favorite part, stupid but funny, is the foot scene where the guy from Lost, he gets his foot blown off and they take him in the store. And it's almost like it's just everyday business for them. It's we need a foot. And the old lady's foot. They're just arguing two old crabby old ladies. Yeah. And meanwhile they just get this thing and it just rips whatever's left of his foot off and then puts just a giant robot lunch lady shoe on it. And that's what he gets. I thought that was just so stupid but funny and perfect for the world. That was just it was awesome.
You know what? I totally realized I forgot to flash Maximus's screen up. I feel guilty about that. So
and now we see why I say.
So yeah, guys, what do you think? Do you like Mac's vision of this is Denzel plus Jonathan Majors?
I see Denzel and Jonathan Majors.
I see Cuba there. It was particularly that movie that he was in, the Navy one. Was it
Radio? No,
not Radio.
I know, I'm kidding.
The only radio reference that's ever been brought up.
Yeah.
So,
I
guys,
know he was in Pearl Harbor, but there's another Navy one where
No,
Robert
he's
De
not.
Niro.
Oh, I know. It's the diving one.
Yeah, the diver one with Robert De Niro is like.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Either way, he was a great actor. Either way, he's just such a. I see two distinct faces when I look at him.
Do you agree with Mac that he looks more like the love child of Denzel Washington and Jonathan Majors? Or do you agree with Carlos in that he looks like Denzel Washington plus Cuba Gooding Jr.? Leave a comment with your vote. This is
inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Well, also, I want to know. I mean, they're both legitimate stances. Let's see what other people think.
It's just a good-looking dudes all around. I mean,
yeah, he's
not necessarily with the best backgrounds right at the moment. Also, but
my God, what a wasted career!
I know
of Jonathan.
Let's move on. Let's get to.
Oh wait, no, Mac, you'd appreciate this. I made this this ticker for when we go on tangents. So. Because there will be tangents.
I'm at least 50+% responsible for going off.
I like this comment from Nate. Show me the bottle caps.
Yes. I like that. I was gonna bring up that too, but I kind of I didn't know how many favorite moments we could have chosen, but that was also a funny thing when Maximus has to get his armor fixed and he goes to the nearby town and she's like 5 caps and he's like, I only have 4, and then he couldn't even haggle her even more. He's like, okay, fine, it's 5, and he goes and
wasn't bust up enough on his speech points.
Yeah, his charisma was also down, but it's all so he had to go donate a tooth, and he's like, I'll give you your 5 and extra if you move faster. And it's just like one solder, and that's it.
Was that worth a tooth, Max? Tell me about it. Now let us step into the dark side, because not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Was there anything about the season 1 that bothered you, Mac?
I don't think there was anything that really bothered me. I think there was a thing or two that I didn't miss, like I didn't see it, but like I missed, like I wanted to see it and it wasn't in there, which was Super Mutants.
I
wanted to see it, and I don't think there were a couple of points. I don't remember which episode it was. There was like, the music was building up, and they were like gonna, go end up crossing something, and you go, and for me, I was like, oh, it's the Super Mutants, it's Super Mutants. It never happened. So I wanted to see some sort of encounter with Super Mutants, because I would love to see who they cast as the Super Mutants. I think that would be hilarious. You could have some very big fun with doing that, because they also tend to act pretty dumb and kind of hilarious a lot of the time when you listen to the VO lines and things like that in the games. So I was hoping to see that. I didn't see it, so that would be my biggest oh man. But hopefully they'll maybe we'll run into it in New Vegas.
Yeah, that's what season 2 is for. And Nate was just saying, I figured Super Mutants is season 2 for budget reasons. Well, budget reasons, but also you need a hook to keep them coming back.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Carlos? Was there anything you disliked or wanted more of?
The Super Mutants was brought up there, but now that you were talking about who they would cast, I was thinking about, what if they get Seth Rogen?
Channing Tatum,
or someone they can just have the little one-liners, or just play kind of dumb and still have some type of comedic one-liners to throw in there. But I think not being able to, I'm a big time guy, and I like to have okay, so where are we, or how far along are we? So I don't know exactly when Lucy left, how long the span of time is from when she left to when she ends up completing her quest at the end.
It's 4 days. No, I don't know.
Yeah. So that and just having a lot of questions. I don't like to have too many questions, because it could be like one of those things where we may be in like the small group that likes the show, but like no one else did, and thankfully everyone else is like loving and raving about the show. But if it was the opposite, then we would never get a season 2 and be like, because some of this stuff isn't in the sorry, some of this stuff isn't in the video game, and if it is, it's not explained all the way either.
Right.
So,
well, there is a bunch of
yeah.
stuff that's new, and some stuff that was changed. Nate brings up no synths either that we can tell.
Yeah, that was one of my things that my wife had brought up when we were watching this. When I think if it wasn't Lucy's father, Hank, we were thinking that maybe Moldaver would have been a synth. Because spoilers to people that are probably watching and trying to decide if they should watch the show or not. But I don't think that Moldaver would have been with the Vault-Tec people to be cryogenically frozen for 200 plus years.
Right.
So how would she still have been able to make that and survive that without either being a ghoul or being a synth?
That is a very interesting point, and one that might be hopefully answered in season 2. My expectations were, I wasn't expecting anything bad, but I wasn't expecting anything at all till some of our friends started raving about it. So I didn't have it built up in my mind. So nothing really disappointed me, and everything else I enjoyed so much that, I can't say that I disliked anything really. Not to say that it was perfect, but I enjoyed my time with the show.
Yeah, like if I measure it against how excited I am for like Deadpool, right? Like,
yeah.
Versus like how excited I am for like, ooh, the next thing. Right. This was certainly like on the plus side for me. I was like, oh, cool. Like there's a Fallout show coming. But like if I missed the first episode, like the day that it came out, like that wasn't the end of the day, like the world for me.
Yeah.
I'll get to it when I get to it. And I'm glad that I did because it was really good when I did.
Yeah. And that's unusual because there aren't many shows I can think of that fall into that category for me. It's either something I really want to watch or something that is on the back burner. Yeah. Which is it's a great thing because there are so few surprises these days with so many trailers and things on the internet, websites posting spoilers and all that.
Right.
Now, next I want to talk about, and this is something we touched on this point, there are some hardcore fans of the video game series that they have problems with certain aspects
continuity.
Continuity. One of the things you talked about earlier, Mac, some people are complaining that ghouls are supposed to be just as vulnerable as a human, but here they have like Wolverine healing factors and super strength. Another one I heard is that, when we see New Vegas at the end, it looks like it's gone to shit, and it shouldn't be, unless something, maybe they'll explain it in season 2, but it should still be pretty much more intact than it looks like from afar.
Well, in the game, there's only like 4 buildings.
Yeah, but they're not like, blown up and smoking and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like brightly lit. I think when we first encountered in the game.
I'm literally like moments away in the other room from finishing New Vegas. Like I'm at the final like boss battle before I think you finish the story, and then it opens up and you can keep just exploring the world and finishing things.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I'm not married to the series as much as some people. I think out of all of us, I think Nate, who's watching, is probably the biggest Fallout fan. So the changes wouldn't bother me. Did they bother either of you guys? I'll let you fight this one out to go.
Carlos, go for
it. I just like you, Raymond. Like you played more of the games because you had to, but I only played Fallout 3 and New Vegas. So those are just like the main things, and it just like when we had the other show, like The Last of Us, come out, there are minor differences and things like that.
Yeah,
but I understand that there's like we can't get everything because there's too much money, or maybe the technology to bring that to life, either with practical or with CGI is a little bit above and beyond from what they put inside of a game to bring to life, especially with, we're talking about synths, which, Jonathan Nolan may be very familiar with doing that because of Westworld, but you got to, Amazon Prime compared to HBO Max, maybe the budgets are different. Maybe getting the technologies that they use to make the hosts bring them over, because it might be different and things like that. So I'm not very nitpicky when it comes to like things that I know that are out of their control, but not everything translates correctly from a game to real life is what I'm trying to say. But other than like, I don't have anything that I'm really bothered with that, but it just makes me more excited because if they announced there's a season 2 coming, so now we have like more things that we could probably get in,
right?
Such as super mutants, such as synths, and such as more lavish, like backgrounds and sets and things like that.
Although the budget is the same,
is it?
They got 1 million more.
100.
So if they stick to 8 episodes, though, the budget will be the same per episode. They're moving filming to California because they got some subsidies there. So that is interesting.
California will be on fire by July anyway. So,
well, let's see what happens in November. Like, depending on who wins, like California might get sawn off the country.
Yeah.
See what happens. Now, here's a fun nerd discussion to have. Nate brings up this point. I don't think the healing factor guy was a ghoul. There's another chem in Fallout 76 that fits what happened to them better than. Didn't multiple ghouls showed healing factors? Like Thaddeus got that arrow through the neck, right?
Yeah, that guy. I don't know if he's know what
but he took the thing that the snake oil.
The snake oil man just.
This is interesting. That could be.
And we just assumed that he's a ghoul because he's like, holy shit, I'm a fucking ghoul. And
I thought he was going to be a mutant. So I thought he was going to turn into a mutant after that. That didn't happen because I was on a mutant kick and I wanted to see mutants and it didn't happen. So like everything to me was like, oh, he's going to turn a mutant and it didn't happen.
Well, maybe he will. Maybe he'll come back.
Maybe exactly. Maybe we'll find him, somewhere in season 2.
Right.
And then he might be a synth.
This is another one. My only thing is they straight told us who dropped bombs first, right? In the games it was avoided. Yeah, in the games it was avoided because you can side with different factions and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas
I still think they left this where you could still kind of like make your own decision, because Barb just says that we can drop it first to ensure that that we started first and that our business is viable.
Right.
But I never got that she would actually do it, or that they would actually do it. Maybe they just dropped one, and then other people retaliated.
You just have to drop one, and then everyone else will start.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, I still left it open to interpretation for me. But I see where Nate's coming from.
No, both stances are legitimate, and that's what makes this show interesting. I
didn't think like I don't ever mind. I think I agree with Carlos too, right? Like I think what works in a game doesn't always work on the screen, and you have to kind of find the happy blend that's going to stay kind of true to the source material, but also be entertaining, right? And that's always the challenge with all of these things. And I think I'm going to circle back to one other thing I forgot to mention earlier, because the part of the ghoul and that like. What he did, what Walton Goggins did as the ghoul for me was he played essentially what is more like the player character role in the game, right? Where you just like, you might be a good person at heart, but you can kind of pick and play like however you want it. Like, and you can tell every decision he goes into is, again, it's shrouded in that like he's a hateable, likable character. Because he does terrible fucking shit, but you don't know why yet. But he's got a motive, and finally, when you get that reason at the end, you're like, "Oh man, okay, I get it now."
Right. Then you have empathy for him, but
he did such a good job all along the way, and even up until you figure that out at the end, he did such a good job of kind of making you almost feel like because I know the stories about Lucy, but like just him being the other kind of main character story that you could follow through and also like really identify with. I thought that was a really neat trick too.
Yeah, and part of it is because Walton Goggins is so charming that he can like, not every actor can do that, can thread that line where he can do fucked up shit and still be likable. So kudos to him. I thought all three of the leads had aspects of me. Yeah. And I think that was definitely intended that way, which is, I was curious about how they were going to do that, because you can make different good evil choices in most of the games. I don't know about like the strategy one and all that.
No, but like even this run through of Fallout 76 I'm playing, because my kids will come watch me play it when they have a second. And every time there's a choice to make, I make the worst one. I use the most asshole dialogue line that they offer. Like, I'm always trying to be the worst of the worst. I'm hoping whatever ending is befitting of that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Like, even if I want to go down that route, I feel guilty about it. Like, so KOTOR.
It's hard. It's like, if you're a good natured person and you want to play like a complete asshole, like, it goes against your kind of core DNA, and it's hard to pull off like in a long-term game like that.
Now, I want to move on to an aspect that, well, even expand on this question, because Mac, you were saying, both of you were saying you watched it with your wives. Mac, I don't know if any of your daughters caught this as well, but I wanted to see how newcomers reacted to it. There's a lot of location jumps, some time jumps, and any kind of nerdy thing can get confusing to people that are not nerds. So how did that go over with the people you watched it with? Let's go with you, Mac.
You know what? Like, for me, even until you get into the swing of how the episodes work, right? Probably, like, say, for 2 episodes in, like, you understand all the transitions and the timelines, right? Like, maybe 3. But, like, I thought it was fine, right? I thought they did a good job in terms of, like, this is definitely pre-bomb. Like, this is definitely, like, you can do a good job of, like, figuring out where things were happening. So I never got lost. And then my wife, I mean, she was totally fine the whole way. Like, there was no confusion. There weren't a whole bunch of questions about, like, so wait, when, like, everything seemed to track pretty good just for her.
Sweet. And Carlos?
Yeah, that's one of the big things that I didn't like is they do a lot of time jumping, which I understand why. It was more easier to follow when they did it in Westworld, because you already had, like, they were able to lay out that timeline pretty good, where you were able to follow it a bit more. But with this one, with them starting off that scene where Coop and his daughter at that birthday, and he's doing the show, I don't know how far along they are until he gets that divorce or that separation from him, to where we see those flashbacks where he's doing the ads for Vault-Tec, and he's going and trying to spy on Barb and do all those things. Like, I don't know what that time elapsed is. Like, is it a year? Is it several years? And because now we will know how far along they had been already planning this, whether it's Vault-Tec, as Nate is pointing out, or all the other guys of big industry that we had in that round table of evil,
right?
When they were like, you can have your own vaults and you can make your own experiments.
Right.
So that one, and
we did get an exclamation of the thumbs up from Vault Boy, so I think that was new. And I think the round table of evil, I believe that is a new aspect from the games either. I don't think I don't think Vault-Tec was working with other people.
I don't know. I mean, there were all of those different entities exist in the world,
right?
Like, but not as like a collective,
right?
Yeah, the experiments, or you find out through side quests and quests that other people are doing them, but you never get them like they're on the same page,
right?
And then just like I mentioned before, the other thing, it's just my big thing is just it's not maybe. My wife didn't think that, she hasn't brought it up, that thing where she's confused about the time, but maybe as we go along, we won't. She's only made it up to episode 4, so we're halfway through. So maybe a little bit more, because there tends to be more episodes that either start off in the 2077.
Yeah, this is another one of those shows too that I feel like if I watch it a second time through, which I will, like, it'll make like just because it's one of those timeline jump shows, like it'll make even more sense the second time through once you kind of
right when you're not
you'll
watching
catch other things when you're not like. So I'm looking forward to that from that perspective too.
Yeah, and as you said, there's a lot of Easter eggs throughout the sets and everything. I want to find some of those, but yeah, that's a good point, Mac. Like I watched it the first run, just to enjoy it. But now I want to watch it again to find things that I missed, to make more sense of other things.
Yeah, so, my kids didn't watch this. I'm going to have to watch the whole series again with them anyway. So that's fun for me,
Nate says, in the vaults, Robco and West-Tek definitely had huge roles in the right, but I don't recall them working together.
Yeah, like never. You never kind of came across them all under one roof or in one building or anything like that. It was always like Robco had its headquarters and like building, and then they all had their own stations. On
a side note, one of the solar panel companies out here in Nevada is called Robco. So
is it really?
It is, and that's actually the one. That's the one I want to go with, but I'm like, do I like them just because of the name or because they're good? Like,
that's funny.
Can they sell me a vault after I get my panel? Like, so I'm trying to see if there's like a subliminal thing going on here. But, yeah, it's cool to learn that the rest of your family is enjoying the series. That's really a remarkable thing that they got it to appeal to everyone. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if my wife would have gone and like watched it on her own. Right.
Right.
But the fact that she didn't like leave me to watch it on my own is also significant. So if you read the PCs in the various files. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So season 2, what are you guys looking forward to? Mac, let's kick it to you.
Super Mutants, for sure. I would like to see more Matt Berry as the robot, even as a companion robot that sticks with you for a couple days or something like that, sticks with the characters for a couple days. I think that yes, that would be cool. Okay. So and then the other one is I'd love to see some of the like the hidden super weapons that you find every once in a while. Right? There's always like a crazy crashed alien ship with a powerful weapon in it somewhere. There's always like a lab that has some test weapon that you can get. So I'd love to see beyond like, power armor suit. I'd love to see somebody come up with like some more of the kind of cool tech weapon that gets used pretty consistently. Not just like a once and done.
How about you, Carlos? What are your hopes and dreams for Fallout Season 2?
I'm looking to see if we get more interconnected vaults. Possibly like we had 31, 32, 33. Yeah. So we had Vault 4, but like they're all numbered. So how many do we have?
And they're going to go look in the game after this because there's a handful of them and they're all the same thing. They're all numbered and you know exactly which one is which.
Yeah. So was there more like that, or was it just the Vault-Tec ones that had the 3 and they were being like, I guess, made to be led and bred with Vault 31? People and buds
yes.
So and then I guess now any of the changes that were made from what we saw, like we mentioned the New Vegas thing, who's in charge now? Because and is it Vault-Tec? Because why would Hank be running off to New Vegas
if I want to know why it's all shitty now?
Yes, man, Mr. Lucky.
Right.
Yeah, but in the game it's not like a Vault-Tec like property or like subsidiary or anything like that. So
but this is like, it's not too long after New Vegas, right? So isn't this like 15 years or so after the game? Like,
well, this
Carlos is right. We need a timeline. Like,
this is supposed to be the 2077 or was it 22? What is this? 22,200. Someone do the math. But the time that Hank is running off at the end of this series, New Vegas is supposed to be bright and not thriving, like but
or like at least alive.
Not like at least alive looking, and then not supposed to be going 10 years after Fallout 4, give or take, is what Nate is saying. But
10 years after Fallout 4, give or take.
Yeah. But I just I need to see why Hank is going over there, because from what I understood from there, is that it's not Vault-Tec that's in charge of New Vegas. It's one of the I think it's Big Mountain or somebody that's in charge of New Vegas, if I remember correctly. That's part of that round table of evil. So why was he heading over there? Is that where more Vault-Tec people are? Is that where Barb is? Where we still don't know where Barb and Janie are at. Yeah.
Right.
Are they in Buds or are they in a different vault somewhere?
When you said Big Mountain, I thought of that band that didn't they do a crappy remake of Ooh Baby I Love Your Way for some Sharon Stone movie? I don't know. But yeah,
UB40?
No, someone did a remake. Did UB40 do a remake of that as well?
They did I Can't Stop Falling in Love with on
right, different song.
Different song. Okay, I'm just saying that's the only remake I remember with Sharon Stone in it.
But if you know where that Big Mountain remake, well, I'm going to look it up later. But if you happen to know where that Big Mountain remake comes from, leave it in the comments section.
Ray will not sleep tonight until that fact has been confirmed.
Yeah.
Now let's get you guys out of here on this question. A bunch of people were debating on if this is the best video game TV adaptation ever, and they're saying it's either this or The Last of Us. First of all, do you guys agree with those choices? And which one would you pick? Carlos, let's go with you. That's a hard one.
It is a hard one because it's more like established that Last of Us is kind of following more canon-wise the series or the storyline that's laid out in Last of Us 1 and Last of Us Part 2. So there's not that many deviations, and like I guess if we had to say, just because of the potential that's there, I'm more intrigued with where Fallout can go because it's not as laid out as Last of Us. So we can see I'm laughing at Nate's comment that I just saw.
Yes. No, we're not going in that. Not with that's the one with Captain Lou?
Yeah. Captain Lou Albano and that guy.
Was it Mario? What's his face? I don't remember.
Yeah, but just based on potential, and if they manage to find a way to progress the story, find their big bad, and find a way for these protagonists to actually find a way to either have humanity live on the surface and win, or maybe capitalism will still end up ruling everything at the end of it all. But it has more potential, and it's not as this is the storyline. We'll have a few little deviations like Last of Us did and things like that. But just based on potential, I think Fallout I would say has the potential to be better.
Totally understand. How about you, Mac?
Fallout does. Okay, so both of the choices are perfect, right? Those are two great choices. For me, it's more of like the sci-fi, I guess. I don't know what but the post-apocalyptic element that's in Fallout is more my flavor than the post-apocalyptic zombies element that's in The Last of Us's flavor, right? Not to say that like one is better than the other.
Yeah, it's what you like.
I tend to like that kind of like post-nuclear, setting a little bit better, and the variety of the world, the enemies, the monsters, the things, the other characters you come across with. So like, I tend to lean more into the Fallout camp on that one, and I think, like I said, they have a little bit more freedom, if you will, to like take some of the special effects and some of the weapons that you might come across in the future, and some of the there's a lot more kind of cool and interesting things I think that can be done in the Fallout world, whereas like The Last of Us is still rooted in too much of like current day contemporary reality with zombies.
Right.
Right. And so I think to me, there's more fun and adventure to be had on the Fallout side.
Now, before we get to my pick, Nate says it's different if you ask me. Last of Us is a remaking story.
That's true.
Yeah. It is different, but that doesn't mean you can't prefer one over the other.
Right.
Pedro Pascal is a fantastic actor, one of my favorites from the last, 20
Well, I
years.
apparently went to high school with and didn't know.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Like, who knew?
But yeah, as Mac was saying, zombies. I guess I don't like zombies. I find them like slow and stupid. And
I love zombies and like Simon Pegg kind of style zombies.
That's
right?
different. I mean, Simon Pegg can make anything funny. Like, yeah. But yeah, traditional like Walking Dead, not my thing. I'm sure if there was a Dragon Age series that was done real well, I'd like it better than all of these. But for now, because I can't think of any sword and sorcery video game adaptations off the top of my head. I'm probably missing one.
You didn't like the Dungeons and Dragons
I
movie?
was gonna say that with
Well,
the one Wayne's brother and who was in that?
Um,
Oh God, that's a terrible. I'll still watch it if it's on TV though. Like, if it's still on, I can't flip past it. For some reason, if I see it like available on demand, I'm bored. I'll just put it on.
I mean, I will get back. There's something tangent time. Please remind me if I forget. But for the reasons that both of you gave, I picked Fallout because the creators have more freedom and there's more interesting ways to go. And also, I don't know. To me, ghouls and zombies are different things. That might sound stupid to some people, but they're not the same at all to me. So,
and I'll tell you right now, the easy coin flip for me is like one show had a doctor who was fucking chickens, and the other one did not.
Yes.
So I think like we all know where I'm gonna end up.
Yeah.
In terms of comedy,
Yeah.
So where's my tangents ticker? So I was actually thinking of if we should do a show on bad movies that we loved because
100%. I got too many of them though.
Earlier this week, I'm like, you know what I want to watch? That A-Team movie. I mean,
oh no.
Like nobody thinks it's good, but I have fun with it. And
we could do like a once a month or once every 2 weeks where like
Liam Neeson did do a good job in that movie.
Some of us, like let's say like I get to pick a movie that we're gonna watch in May, and then
love it.
And then one of the
bad
episodes
movie May.
Just a bad movie recap.
We should do that. We should be called like watch this shitty movie or something. But I don't know. Like some of the complaints about the A-Team movie, people are like, the script is, the story and plot are stupid. I'm like, as opposed to what? I don't remember one intellectual A-Team episode ever. Like,
yeah. By the way, we're talking about that group of vigilantes that drives around in a fucking rapist panel van. So I don't know what you're expecting, but temper your expectations.
Right.
I mean, Bradley Cooper is fun in that movie. Carlos is saying Liam Neeson. I don't know if Liam Neeson has been bad, and I'm sure he's had some movie where he's
Liam Neeson falls in that category of everything he does is somehow entertaining, not good, but like he makes it worthwhile.
Or that, and that's another episode. Or our favorite actors like that that no matter what they do, we'll watch them and be entertained. Like to me, Alan Rickman was that guy.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, The Rock.
You'll watch Van Wilder.
I'll watch
Wilder's.
Any Ryan Reynolds movie is
just not Green Lantern.
Where he's the music exec.
Just Friends.
Just Friends. If you haven't seen Just Friends, Ray, do yourself a favor.
Is that the one with Amy Smart?
Yeah.
Anna Faris.
And Amy
Smart.
Oh,
yeah, Amy Smart. Anna Faris is the superstar, and
it's
one of those.
That's why, by the way, that's one of Anna Faris's funniest fucking roles that she's been in too. Like she plays that role as like the just out of her mind crazed like pop star really well.
I still love her best. Well, I liked when she was playing Cameron Diaz in Lost in Translation. That's what she was doing, really. But that's also my favorite movie ever.
Lost in Translation is?
Yes.
Okay, I gotta go rewatch that. It's been a long time.
I believe it is streaming on HBO right now, or it's streaming on one of them.
Max, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that the other day? Somebody was doing a whole bit, and it was like, do you call it HBO anymore? Is it just Max?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
What was that from?
Oh, I saw a clip of that too. Yeah.
That's Saturday Night Live.
Oh, it was the Conan thing. It was the Conan, the Conan Hot Ones. They covered that whole thing. He didn't know what to call it at that point because his new show is on Max.
That's right, and they do want us to call it Max, even though that's. Why do you have like a? How old is that brand? It's like at least 30-something years old. Why do you throw that away? I mean, that just seems idiotic to me.
Yeah.
No, it's more than, yeah, you're right, Carlos. It's got to be like 40, 50 years old or something. But yeah, let's call it Max. Named it after like a stupid Cuban guy or something. No. No. That's one of our friends, Mac.
Still funny even without the context.
So that will do it for our thoughts on Fallout Season 1. Hope you guys had fun. Don't forget to leave a comment. Keep asking for someone to leave a limerick. No one has left a limerick yet, but please do so. And we'll see you next time on RPAD TV. Thanks so much for hanging out. Bye.
See you later.